Going into this, I think we all just assumed that this was going to be the hardest thing we've ever done.
We had a lot of different visions in our mind about how we thought things were going to go or how we thought they were going to play out.
It started as just a few of us, and then more and more people started showing up. And then, yeah, it all kind of just culminated in what it is now. The whole purpose of why we bothered building a gym and didn't just continue to do our thing like we did before, I mean, it really came down to the spaces we were in before. Like, there wasn't enough things to do. Like, we couldn't actually train the sport year-round properly, and then in turn we couldn't teach the sport year-round properly because, I mean, the facilities, nothing against them, they just weren't built for parkour. So that's the biggest reason we wanted to make our own space, so that way year-round throughout the winter and the summer ourselves we could train and progress, but we could also have a space to actually teach athletes and kids and stuff like what the sport really is about, because we were only getting a tiny little window, like a tiny little piece before, but now it's just completely opened up.
I know, like, when we first started thinking about it, we were like, man, this is going to be so much work. And then we started doing it. We started going to meetings with advisors and realtors and banks. We started that process. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of footwork. We had to put in a lot of effort. But kind of the more we pushed at it, the more it started to snowball and the more it started to come together. So that was like really cool to see how as we kept at it, things kept on getting easier. Things kept on showing more progress. We were able to see the steps we made take more impact and actually be more substantial as we went.
Not to say that there wasn't challenges or struggles involved or long days, but everything just fit together, and I think that just comes down to us being prepared all the way from the beginning, starting with our business plan, to our budget, our design, all the contacts we made along the way to help us get this far. It all just came together, and now we have a gym.
I guess all that being said, like, we decided to make a space. We were really excited about it. We put a ton of work in, and we had a facility basically ready to go, not done, but ready to begin building in it. And it came to day one where we were supposed to start, and we went and looked in the window and there was still dirt on the floor. And so that was a bad sign, and then I guess we kind of just brushed it off, like, okay, we just have less time to build, like, we can figure it out. And then it just kept turning into like a red flag here, a roadblock there, and it just kept like getting worse and worse to the point where the space ended up falling through and we missed our window for the year. We missed our second window for the year, and it was just a mess. And that really put a damper on things for a little while. I think morale was a little bit low. Felt like we wasted a lot of time, but
eventually got to the point where we were doing so well in that regard, and then we hit that huge snag of losing the building, and it kind of just deflated all this momentum we had built up. So it felt like, it was really depressing. It felt like all of that hard work and effort we had put in kind of just like collapsed and went nowhere. So we just started pushing again. We started pushing that snowball again and letting it build up. And then we finally got into the new space, and it was more hours and more work than we had ever done before, but we were so motivated doing it. That turned out to be, I'd say honestly, the easiest part was building it. Just some effort.
I don't know, we wanted the space, so we didn't give up. So we found a new space, a few new ones, figured out which one we liked, and then we saw this one. It didn't look like this, but similar. And we knew right away. We all kind of looked at each other like, this is the one that we need, and this is the one we want. So we went full steam ahead, and it all worked out.
From the very beginning, we were not ashamed to ask anyone for help. Right off the bat, we needed help with a realtor. We needed help with budgets, banking, legal stuff, and building, welding, framing, all that stuff. We had some of the best contacts we probably could have asked for while building this. We were a little worried about maybe asking too much of people before going into it. Like, Obviously we can't pay people to help us build, but everyone just came to our aid whenever we needed it. Specifically, we had our friend Justin, acted as our main engineer and welder, put this awesome bar area together here, and it just works. It just came together. Everyone was on our side, and it just goes to show you what your parkour community can do for you. So now it's our turn to do something for them.
In this sport, it's a little bit different feeling than like basketball or like hockey or like really competitive team sports like that. Like, there is competition and it does get pretty like intense, but at the end of the day, being an individual sport like it is, it almost feels like more of a team sport in the long run, because like the community gets so tight knit and you meet people from all over the place, like all across the country, in different countries, different continents, and you really sort of just all come together, and it doesn't really feel like anybody's competing against each other. It's all sort of everybody just coming together to enjoy the sport, and that's happened too locally, like over the last few years.
So we're done the gym now. We've had classes running for like a couple weeks, and we've started to like really hit our rhythm and our groove. And I had this moment yesterday where I was in the gym. We had some classes running. We had some of the older guys in here training. Some of the coaches were in here training. New people were checking out the space, just like working out and stuff. And I had this moment where I was just like eating supper upstairs and just watching everybody in the gym, just like using the space and fulfilling that kind of vision we had in our head of like what the community would do with the space. I was just sitting up top, just like eating supper and just watching us succeed. And it was so cool, so fulfilling to see our hard work kind of like pay off and other people enjoying what we put so much effort into.
Like a big memorable moment in the entire process was definitely the grand opening day. It really stuck out in my mind and still sticks out because it was like, that was the point where it felt like we finally made it. Like before then, like getting the space was great and like starting to build the first structures was great, but when we actually had people like in here learning, us teaching, like people training, like it actually started to feel like real, like we actually made it, so yeah.
We've noticed a lot of things that we're very excited to put into the space. We're still going to be looking forwards. I know we like just opened, but we're already like, what can we do next year? What can we do over Christmas break coming up? And what can we do in 5 years? So just like looking ahead with the space and seeing what we've already got going, how we can improve it. There's a lot of like physical improvements, just in terms of adding new equipment to the gym. I think we're also looking at a lot of like community improvements in terms of what events we're hosting, and trying to get people involved in parkour in ways outside of just like supporting our business and taking classes and coming to the gym for open gyms and things like that. I think it'll be really cool to push more than just our classes and our facility and really push our community with the space, and outside of the space too. So I'm very excited to really push that.